I am Linsey Steege, and I am an assistant professor in the School of Nursing. Although a little bit of a disclaimer, I am not a nurse, so please don't ask me anything nursing related. My background's in engineering, so biomedical engineering and then industrial engineering, and then so I taught in engineering at the University of Missouri before I came to Wisconsin 2 years ago. And I have played around with WordPress a little bit in a couple of different classes, so I will share what my experiences are. There's certainly a range of ways that you could use WordPress. I know a lot of people use it as a course sort of site, and everyone kind of posts to the same blog. I actually used it, and we'll see in both of these classes, as the students sort of had their own blogs, and I use it as an assignment platform, I guess. So a little bit just to kind of give you how I got into the why a blog. I wasn't initially saying WordPress is exactly what I want to do. I started in engineering, and I actually originally started with wikis, so come next week. And I was teaching a number of courses where we had a strong emphasis on writing within the course, so to meet our accreditation guidelines, and also trying to embed technical content with writing, and also writing to different audiences. So lots of different communication sort of goals within these engineering courses. And I found that when I was trying to structure assignments, blogs offered some unique affordances or sort of design features that kind of fit. So the idea of the students kind of own this space, and over the course of a semester they can develop ideas and kind of connect posts or connect ideas. So there's this continuity of assignments. It's similar to, you might have a portfolio space in some disciplines. Engineering, at least in my experiences, the students kind of balked at, like, we're going to have a reflective portfolio. That was culturally a little bit more difficult to sell, but a blog was fine. It also is visible, which has some pros and cons, so people can see it outside of the class, at least the way that we've always set it up, which can be great. You can sell this as, well, if you write some interesting content, this may be something that you could show to employers or you could show to others, but certainly also has some concerns as well. They also can discuss, so you can have some discussion on the blogs through comments. And then it allows for sort of integration of multimedia, so a different type of writing and some creativity, so finding sources that you couldn't embed a video that relates to your topic into a traditional paper. So those are some of the reasons that I decided, let's try blogging. And so today I'm actually going to talk about my experience in 2 nursing courses here at the UW. And I did not come last week to sort of check out how this traditionally works, so I'm going to try to stay on the timing that I'm supposed to, but please let me know if you have any questions. So to start, the courses and the assignments, just a little bit of background. The first course is a large undergraduate course. They take it in their senior year. It's organizational influences on interprofessional practice, which is sort of a catch-all of a lot of things in nursing as they're about to head out the door. It's a sort of traditional face-to-face course. And we had for the assignment for this class, we had the students organized into teams of 6 or 7 students, and we had identified kind of key themes within the course where we wanted the students to take some of the content we were presenting and push it and see where they wanted to go with it. So we talked about transition to practice in nursing, and so that's kind of a broad theme. We provided some content, and then they took that and responded to some prompts and kind of came up with their own posts on that. So there were 6 different posts and 6 students on a team, so each team was responsible for doing all 6 posts, and what ended up happening, a little bit of foreshadowing, is they did sort of a divide and conquer where each student took a post. In the other class is a graduate course in our DNP Doctor of Nursing Practice program. This one was a little bit smaller, 35 graduate students. It's a different format. It was a summer course, so 6 weeks and kind of a mixed 3 weeks online and 3 weeks face-to-face. And in this class, they did not work in teams. Each student had an individual blog that was their project for the course. But similarly, it was an opportunity for them to take content that we're covering in terms of what is informatics, how do you use that, and then think about how they would apply that to their practice or their goals. And so it was a lot of, you need to sort of address these concepts, but then apply it to something that's of interest to you, which was important to me for this course because there's a lot of, this isn't students' favorite course coming in, they don't see it as, I don't want to do that. That has nothing to do with patient care. So I was really trying to find a way to connect and like allow them some opportunity to show me what they're interested in and then bring in the content. So I just kind of have a little bit of some highlights on how we sort of set this up from each class, and then at the end I have the lessons learned. So we wanted to frame this, so why are we doing this? This is a little different than what we see typically in a lot of the nursing courses, so we tried to relate the assignment as much as possible within the assignment document to the course objectives, and then the specific goals for this assignment. So again, this is the undergraduate course, trying to relate the concepts back to things that are of interest to you, collaboration, understanding some of the key themes from our course objectives. And actually, I put, I had the assignment for the graduate course, like all the nitty-gritty of what it looked like, and it's posted on the, is it the D2L site?
Yep, Active Teaching Desire to Learn course site.
Yeah, so if you want to, this one isn't up there, but for the other class, all of the detail, like exactly everything we put about how to blog, etc., is in that if you are interested.
You are all registered for that class.
So, and we did have some reminders within the assignment, and we also stressed this throughout the semester to remember that the blogs are publicly accessible, so we need to be. And some of our assignments were kind of pushing. They had to identify a quality issue in a healthcare organization, and we didn't want them to write, in my clinical rotation at XY Hospital, I saw someone do something horrific, and then it's on the public blog. So we had some conversations about that and sort of ways in which they could convince us that they actually were talking about something and not have to cite and use exact names. So there was a little bit of a struggle for some of the students. They said, why? I have to make sure I give you the exact reference of the organization. It's not in this case. So some of those lessons as well. The logistics for this class, I had our School of Nursing Academic Technology, George, who's here, help us set up a main hub page. And in this class, we actually set up all of the group blogs in advance. So we set up space for 24 teams, we had a hub page, we assigned, well, actually the students self-selected their groups and then they told us who they were and we assigned them to the blogs. So we invited them to join the blog, similar to, I think, an invitation that you might have got to join the blog for the exercise today. And once they were in the blog, we had access to their blog, but they also kind of owned their team space. But we encouraged them to use a consistent template, kind of didn't mess around too much with creativity and the WordPress site. They could put whatever they wanted on the blog, but that's how it works. So yes?
This is complicated in real life as it looks on the screen. It looks beautiful, but was dealing with that many?
Well, so there were 24 blogs,
right,
but then 6 students or 7 students had access to each one. It was a little bit logistically, we had a whole process and this was right in the first week of the semester, so we're sending you, tell us who your team members are. And then we're sending you an invitation. You need to watch for that. And then, I didn't get it, I deleted it, I lost it. And so we resent invitations. And we did find that once one student would click in, that we could show them how they could then re-invite their friends. So once one of them was in there, that helped with the team, because then they could, I can't get in still, and then they could invite each other rather than us having to do that with 150. And certainly George can pipe in as well, because he was involved in getting some of these emails, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. That wasn't a barrier that I would say avoid this or think through that again. I would probably do that almost the exact same way for this class. Anyway, so, and I'll actually at the end I'll click and open and show you what that hub site looked like a little bit. So to flip back to the graduate class, again, we had some framing, and we actually got more pushback, or at least I did, from this class on, I don't want to use a blog, I'm not a blogger, I don't know how to do this, please, my grade, I can't be graded on blogging, this is nursing. So I tried to anticipate some of these. I didn't anticipate quite how much resistance we got, but we're not expecting you to become an expert blogger. That's not a part of your grade. The writing, the communication is, you are graded on how well you can write, but having fancy hyperlinks and all that. It was not necessarily a criteria. And for this class, I was able to push back and say, this is a class about technology, and so in healthcare, there's growing use of technology. Patients are looking at blogs. You may actually wind up having to write a blog in clinical practice if you're trying to educate or communicate, and this provides you with another tool. Mary, yeah.
So I'm making an assumption here, I probably shouldn't. Was this an older group of students, given that this is a grad or practicing nurses?
Many of these students are returning from years of practice. There are some that are just a couple years older than our undergraduate population. They've maybe practiced for 1 or 2 years and they're back. And then there are some that have been in practice for 20 years, 30 years, and are coming back for this. So yeah, it was a mix, and I'd say generally an average age that's a little older than our undergraduate population. So yeah. And then I don't know how to write a blog, so we provided resources. Again, we weren't expecting that you become an expert blogger. And then I'm worried about my work being online. And this is actually the one where I had sort of the most pushback with this particular group. And so you own this blog. So in this class, the students created their own blog. We gave them an instruction sheet and said, okay, here's how you log in, here's how you create a WordPress account. You need to create a blog, and then you need to send us the link so that we can know where it is. So they owned the blog, and they could control the privacy settings beyond the class. We needed it to be open, and there's actually 3 levels of privacy, I believe, in WordPress. One is like everybody, Google it, find it, it's there. One sort of is, I think my limited understanding is asking search engines to not index it, but technically people could still find it. And then one is you have to have been email invited to join. I thought about going to that highest level of security and saying that was fine, but the logistics, if I wanted the students to see each other's blogs, of them having to invite every other student in the class and accept that, was too much. So we kept it at that mid-level during the course, which was 6 weeks, and then after that, they could close it down if they wanted to, and several of them did. They also weren't required to use their name, so they could set this up and have the blog name be generic, nursing informatics, and there would be no necessarily obvious tie to them, and then again, they could take it down after class ended.
You can also individually password protect posts. So I had my students do 10 assignments, and one of them was to talk about a professor that they had in an interview, and I was like, I don't want the professors to be able to find that, so I was like, password protect that one. And we all knew each other's password because we used the same password. So they could see it and learn from each other, but it wasn't going to get out there.
That's a good tip. I didn't know that one. So again, in this class, each student created their own blog. We provided instructions, and on the first night of class, some in-class time which they could use to set this up. Then they sent us the link, and they had to create an initial test post. We posted all of the list of links in Learn at UW, so they knew where the other students' blogs were. They maintained ownership. There was a lot of flexibility. So we gave them, if you don't know where to start, here's a template to start with, but you can do whatever you want. And then they were, over the course of the semester, required to write, or the 6 weeks, sorry, the 6-week semester. They had to write 6 posts, so 1 per week, and then they had to comment on, they were in groups of 5, they had to comment on that small group's posts at least 3 times during the 6-week course. So that's how we got some discussion, and it actually became quite lengthy on a number of these blogs. So here's some of the samples, again, showing that they did sort of take this, you can own this, and run with it. So, and I'll pull one of these up actually at the end so I don't get too distracted and get through the rest of the content. But a number of, these are 6 of them. There were, again, 35, and they all looked a little different, which was fun and exciting to see them kind of own that.
You said the top left one was the one that you guys...
This was the template that we were sort of recommended. And a number of them did use that, but then, again, a number of them didn't. So how did it go? And these are, I didn't do a special evaluation of the blogs in either of these classes. In hindsight, I maybe should have. But these were just the comments from the general course evaluations, where they can comment on anything from the class. And so there were a number of comments about blogs. So these are some of them, and they're small. The slides are also posted on Learn at UW if you want to look at these. But this is from the undergraduate class, and they're sort of mixed. I liked writing my portion of the blog, but it was not well received by all students. The last one, the idea of collaborating to write a blog is a good idea, but that's not the reality of what happened, which, again, is true. They divided and conquered, and they each wound up writing 1 blog post, and there really wasn't that continuity that we had hoped for. In the graduate class, generally these were all positive. I didn't hear anything bad after they got over that initial sort of hurdle about the blogs. So from my perspective, in the undergraduate class, what we did wrong was sort of the structure of the assignment. So these 6 posts did not build on one another, so they could be written in isolation, and so this divide and conquer thing worked fine for them, and I totally understand why they did that. So we really didn't hit back to that, you want the blog to sort of evolve and there to be some reflection back on what you've written and how this idea might be changing or how you might be growing. So you'd have to restructure the assignment potentially if you really want that, that continuity and the blog to be like this team space where they really are all kind of engaging, I think, to fit that. Otherwise, you don't necessarily need to use a blog. You could come up with potentially another technology that it worked, but it was a tool, not necessarily enhancing the assignment. We also had a little bit of a technical glitch in this class where we lost some blogs. So on a weekend, of course, right, probably mid-April, this was a spring class where things are really heating up and they're having to post a bunch of assignments. Several teams start emailing us in a panic because their blog has been taken down by WordPress. Somehow with, we don't know, either medical jargon or something that we were writing or the number of links that they were putting because they had to put references in their post. Somehow we hit WordPress filters. We still don't have the answer to that. And they thought it was a spam blog, and so they were taking down, and I think it was like 5 or 6 of our blogs got taken down. And so we had a little bit of a, so we contacted WordPress. Luckily, the School of Nursing actually has a full license for our academic technology, and they were able to get to customer service more directly than just waiting for the online form. And so we got them and convinced them that this is, you can see how they're named. They're all, this is a university blog, and they put them back up. But the lesson that we learned there is reminding the students that they should probably type these up in Word or some other platform first and then post to the blog. And actually Microsoft Word has a blog template that you can use when you open up a new document. There's an option for one that's a blog post, and you can use that, and then you would have everything saved, because that's what they were typing in WordPress directly, and then there was no recourse for their work. But everything was recovered. It was fine. So it worked out okay. It was just a weekend of panic and a little bit of an extension for a couple teams in the deadline. In the other class, I'm going to do it again this summer. It worked fantastically. The students liked it. I loved it. I learned a ton about their interests. It really sparked new dialogue. It helped me tailor the content in class as well to better fit sort of their interests. So. And many of them, are building on some of the ideas that they developed in their blog to work on their scholarly project, which is kind of their dissertation or capstone experience. So the challenges, lessons learned. The first thing would be to make sure if you do have access to a local academic technology in your department or college or school, try to partner with them, give them a heads up that you're going to do this. That way, if you do experience that weekend panic where blogs are disappearing, you have someone else to hopefully help you. We also have there were a number of lynda.com and other do-it resources that we just essentially said, great, they already told you how to use a blog, we'll just provide a link to that and you can learn from that, so we don't have to reinvent that. And that Microsoft Word blog template is also a useful tool for students, again, to kind of help them ease into this, comfortable with Word. Thinking through the assignment structure, so again, in that 415 class where we had the posts and they were somewhat distinct and we didn't have that threading or continuity between them, it didn't work as well, and so I'd kind of revisit. I'm not teaching that class this year, but that would be my recommendation, to potentially revisit the assignment. I think the students actually enjoyed the idea of the blog, but the team cohesiveness, and we have to do something with the team because 150 is just too many for grading. For managing the grading, we did have rubrics for both of these assignments, and that helped sort of the students and us sort of believe that we weren't going to ding them if they didn't have fancy blog features. We also had, in both classes, a nice list of links. So when I was going through and grading, I could just click down the list, which was made that actually easy. One of the challenges, though, is that you have to provide pretty timely feedback. This was particularly true in that 6-week course, where the students aren't used to this, and I'm trying to give them feedback, and they're writing a weekly post. So 35 of these within a week before they have time to write their next post, which is due the next week, wound up being a little bit challenging. So this summer I'm going to explore potentially some peer grading or grading every other week, because that was a little bit, I was fine last summer. I don't know if that's sustainable. And then the discussion actually worked out really well with having the students having to comment on each other's blogs, and they read their posts and provided some really nice feedback. But in the graduate class where the students owned the blogs, they controlled the settings for this as well. So they would set it so that they had to approve comments or moderate comments, which is fine. We actually recommended that so they don't get spam comments on their blog. But the students were being graded. We're looking for, did you comment on your peer's blog? And that means that your peer had to post your comment so I could see it. So we had to have a discussion in class about how do you moderate comments, because some of them were not getting the emails from WordPress saying, you have a new comment, do you want to say okay? And then I had to be a little bit more flexible on, we had sort of originally had dates, like you need to comment by this date, but some students were out of town and they didn't approve their peers' comments, and so then the other ones are panicking that it's late. And so we had to kind of back off on, and sort of say more flexible. Over the course of this course, you need to comment, and we'd like it to be, I said, the goal is to sort of be providing this feedback throughout, so you don't have 6 comments on the last post. And then, as always, there are ethical, privacy, security considerations. The students are posting, it's public, and so we have lots of discussion, and certainly keeping up with the grading and sort of being aware of what's out there and having a conversation. We had a couple of undergraduates that they didn't go too far, but they were verging on, this is probably a little, maybe we need to rethink, do you really want this information to be on this blog? And so how can you go back, maybe edit those sentences a little bit, and that was fine. But if you kind of let this go over a semester, you might miss that. So I'm just going to really quickly, I have my information here, but just to show what a couple of these look like. Oh, whoops. I'm in my weird PowerPoint formatting. So this is one from the nursing informatics class, and again, it allows for some more informal writing, which again is somewhat new to many of these students. So they have, what's going on, and lots of text here for this one, and then pictures, and anyway. So, and one of the other challenges, I'm sorry, I got a little bit, just thought of this one. When we let them pick their own template, when they're required to comment on each other's blogs, it was sometimes very tricky to find where you comment, because the templates vary on that. And so, the post a comment on this blog is sometimes very nice and at the bottom, and then in some of the templates it's buried, it's on the side, it's in the top, it's not called a comment. So when I was looking for their comments as well, that was also a challenge for me in grading these. Like, I like them having the flexibility, but it's easier if they're all standard. And then this was the hub site for the undergraduate class, so it was pretty simple. School of Nursing 415 WordPress. What is this blog? How are we going to use it? Here's how do I learn about WordPress. Lots of links here. And then can I use it on my mobile device? And all of the team blogs. And then if you clicked on those, it took you to their blogs. And George, our academic technology director, actually says that he goes back and looks at these blogs and learns about different concepts in nursing. So they're well written, and they got into it. But so they had, again, integrating content. For each one in this class, they had sort of statements or sort of guiding prompts that they needed to respond to, and then they had 4 course themes that they had to discuss how this particular week's concept related to those course themes. They had to provide resources and then also a list of references that they used in the post.